Hi everybody, Dan Illman here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING. Get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator exclusively on DRF Bets. Hi everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Wednesday, April the 20th, race number 7 at Keeneland. We're going 1 mile and a 16th on the turf. $130,000 is the purse for this, now winners of 3 other than allowance race. Let's take a peek at this field. Remember to view those daily racing form free Formulator past performances for this race on the race of the day event page at drf.com. Access them, handicap along with us. And when you've made your final determinations, you can bet this race with your DRF Bets account, as well as the entire Keeneland card on Wednesday. Mike, as usual, we have a great betting race at Keeneland. It's an overflow field full of competitive horses.
Yeah, it's kind of wide open here. I have no idea who's going to be the favorite, Dan. You sort of feel like since they're running for such a big purse here in an allowance race, you're not going to get any scratches. But if you do, I thought all 3 of the horses on the AE list were viable alternatives in this race. I don't know, man. It's a wide open race.
There should be speed in here, and Timeform US agrees as we throw up their pace projector. Fast pace, that's what the red bar is for. And Invader, very fast and good on synthetic, might be better on that surface, but certainly has the speed to get forward. I know that Fancy Liquor has shown some speed in the past, but you got to think the 5 Dynamite's going to be right up close. The 9 Pine Knoll has shown some tactical speed. Even the 11 Get Her Number is stretching out off of a sprint win at Santa Anita.
Yeah, all those horses could be forward in here. Even the 4 Camp Hope, Dan, he doesn't seem like a burner, but he's won twice on turf, and both of those wins he was involved early with the pace. I don't know if it's necessarily going to play out exactly like the pace projector has it, but they should be hitting up front.
A horse that is kind of adaptable to any pace scenario is the number 1, Like the King, who will be making his first start for trainer Mark Casse as he makes his first start since about Halloween. Now, this horse is best known for winning the Jeff Ruby Stakes on the Turfway Polytrack last year. He got into the Kentucky Derby by virtue of that victory. It didn't work out in the Derby. Again, while he's best known for his win on synthetic, he's done some good things on turf. Stakes placed at Keeneland last time out.
Yeah, his turf form is actually fine, and he does have competitive figures, and now he's a newly turned 4-year-old, so you feel like, there's probably better races for this horse ahead of him. He gets a trainer change for this, and Mark Casse actually does a pretty good job off of layoffs, so you don't really have to worry about that. He's well drawn. There's a lot to like about him, Dan. I can't say that, I love any of his turf starts necessarily. I will just point out, though, that this is a horse who keeps catching turf courses with a little bit of give in it. And I just wonder if he's not a little bit better over firm turf. It feels like his 2 starts over firm turf might be his 2 best races.
I tend to agree. He's a very big horse, and maybe his hooves sink a little bit on the turf. In that last race, the Bryan Station, Camp Hope got a very good spot sitting off the lead. Like the King was kind of wrangled back on the inside on the first turn, got to the outside, made a 4-wide bid, trudged on for second. I thought all in all was a good race, but we'll see what we get off of the layoff. Speaking of the Bryan Station Stakes, the number 2 Fancy Liquor was second in that race in 2020. Now, unfortunately for Fancy Liquor, he had an abbreviated 2021 campaign, and it's hard to assess exactly where he is right now because he has run 2 races off the layoff, but both of them on the synthetic surface at Turfway.
Yeah, and he didn't run, that well in either of those races. It's probably not his surface, though. You sort of expect him to just be better getting back to turf now, 3rd off the left. And he's run some really good races, Dan. He's a horse who is at his absolute best, at least in my opinion, when he can be forward and be part of the pace. And that could be a real problem for him in here because they might go fast. But he's definitely got races that would make him a handful in here, and he's 10-1 on the line.
And he's done very good work at Keeneland, not only second in that Bryan Station, but also 3rd by a neck in the Grade 3 Transylvania earlier in his career. He is a nice price, as Mike mentioned. And again, I'm not going to hold those synthetic races against him. Maybe he's just racing himself back into shape. The 3 Glynn County, Mike, has kept some very good company, albeit at longer distances, but he has run well going shorter in his career, especially at Keeneland. Last time out in the Grade 2 McDermott, kind of saved ground all the way around down, maybe in behind horses on the third turn, but the rail opened up and he flattened out the last 16th.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't run well in that race. I didn't love his McKnight 2 starts back either. I like the point that you made earlier, though, Dan. I know they've been concentrated on longer races. Maker will claim horses and do that. He'll claim them and stretch them out and actually get them to improve. I kind of feel like this horse is maybe a little bit better going shorter, so I don't mind them cutting him back in distance for this race. And I think it's worth pointing out, too. I mean, you're going back to his 3-year-old campaign, Dan, but broke his maiden at Kentucky Downs. He won a starter race in New York from well off the pace, both in races that had really strong paces in front of him. And he might get a setup like that in this spot.
And not only will he likely get a quick pace, but he'll be racing with Lasix for the first time since he was a good third in the Grade 1 Mr. D, formerly known as the Arlington Million, a race where he had no chance from a race flow standpoint. He was wired that day by a horse that just got away with the easiest of leads, so maybe the Lasix moves him forward as well. Let's talk a little bit about the number 4, Camp Hope, who's 3-1 on the morning line. The last time we saw Camp Hope at Keeneland, he defeated Like the King in the Bryan Station. He got a really nice ride from Brian Hernandez that day, Mike. The pace wasn't fast. He got up close and he really sprinted home over that soft going.
Yeah, he did. And he looked good winning that race, but it was, a softer turf course. And as you mentioned, he just got an absolute perfect trip in that race. He won his prior start also here at Keeneland with another perfect trip, a race where he took over and basically never faced a challenge for the last half mile in there. He could win this race, to be sure. He could obviously improve still as a 4-year-old. I don't know. Is this the kind of race where you want to take a horse who, his 2 best races have been forward, where the pace might be fast? And, it's just sort of a wide open kind of race then. What edge does he really have on this field to be taking him as the favorite?
I think that's an excellent point. At the price he's likely to be, I think you want to at least find alternatives. We also haven't really mentioned he's coming off of a layoff. We haven't seen him since that race at Del Mar last time out, a race in which he was in and among horses for most of the way. But when he did come clear in the stretch, there wasn't a lot there. He obviously can win, as Mike mentioned. Maybe at 3-1, you might want to shop for value elsewhere. Dynamite's going to offer value. I'm just not sure he's good enough. He's 20-1 on the morning line, the number 5, and he's one of the horses that has speed. So maybe he'll be compromised by a fast pace up front.
Yeah, that's how I looked at him too. I felt like he was one of the horses, listen, he's a big price in this race. And if you saw something you liked, maybe you want to take a shot, but I felt like this was a tough spot for him and he may not get the trip that he wants.
In his one and only start at Keeneland, however, over yielding going last fall, he was able to make the lead. He took a little bit of pressure. The pace wasn't very fast, however, and he scooted on home. Likely a much different scenario from a race flow standpoint in this race. TD Dance is up next. This is a lightly raced 4-year-old going out for Eclipse Award-winning trainer Brad Cox, and this is a horse that's always hinted at a lot of potential. His last race at the fairgrounds, Mike, it looked like he was in behind horses turning into the stretch, and he was kind of in behind horses for a while. He's always kind of green with his lead changes. He flops back and forth a few times, but when he did come clear, he came with an okay finish. He has the right running style for this race.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought this trip might work out a little better for him. You're right too. When you watch him run, he still feels like he's one of those horses who doesn't quite know what he's supposed to be doing out there. I watch him, Dan, and I wonder when the blinkers are going to come on because he does a lot of gawking at the stands through the stretch of his races, but he can run when he gets trips in his races. He won those 2 starts early last year very easily. They were against weaker horses, but he won those races pretty impressively. They brought him to Canterbury. He got very unlucky not to win the Mystic Lake Derby in June, and then it was a layoff. I feel like I can make excuses for both of his starts on the way back then. You mentioned the trouble that he had in his most recent start. Just really couldn't get any momentum up in that race until it was too late. And off the layoff back in February, man, he went early to take on the pace setter in that race, and he dueled for a long way before he just got beat.
Gray's Creek is the number 7. This is a horse coming off of a lengthy layoff for Paulo Lobo, who's done some really good work off the layoff in the past with horses on turf like Ivar. He ran in a turf sprint last time out. It was the Grade 1 Jaipur, and they cut him all the way back to 6 furlongs, and he was simply overmatched in that race against a couple of horses that came back to win graded stakes races at Saratoga with triple-digit buyers.
Yeah, and when you go back and watch the replay of that Jaipur, you can't really watch it, Dan, and say that he was going to win, but talk about just getting buried in traffic through the stretch of that race. I mean, he had absolutely nowhere to go in there and actually didn't run that poorly. His prior form is actually really good. He won those 3 turf races in a row for Chad before they tried a graded race with him, and it didn't work out. They ran him here last April off of a shorter layoff. He didn't run great that day, but he didn't run terrible. This horse has a real chance in here, and he's going to sit back and make one run in this race, and that could really work out.
And again, this barn does very, very well off layoffs. Grays Creek has run well at Keeneland, and he is going to get Lasix once again. He didn't have the benefit of Lasix in that graded stakes race in New York. Invader is up next. He is likely the speed of the speed. And I like the way they rode him last time out. He was coming back off about a 5.5, 6 month layoff, and they know he loves Turfway. They sent him. They just let him show the field his heels from the start. They went fast from start to finish. He bested 2 minor next out winners. I just always have thought of him as a synthetic horse, and I'm not sure he can beat a field like this on the turf, considering the hot pace.
Yeah, that's how I look at him too. I mean, his 2 most recent turf starts, and they were way back at the beginning of last year off of a really long layoff. And he ran competitive figures in those races where they just put him on the lead and he couldn't hold on. It feels like he's in for more of the same here. He's probably a little better on synthetic, and he's just another one. The trip just may not work out for this horse. I would want a big price if I was going to use him.
TD Dance is likely to be the more likely fancied of the Brad Cox train runners. Pine Knoll, the 9, though, will be coming in very good form. He got a nice trip last time out at the fairgrounds. He just sat second off of the slowest pace possible, 51 for a half mile in a 1 mile race. He gutted it out. They're likely going to go a lot faster here.
Yeah, it's a much different scenario for him here. He's won 3 times on the turf, all 3 of those wins when he was just right up close to paces that weren't fast. And this is going to be a totally different scenario. He's going to have to really prove it against this field.
Beacon Hill is very interesting to me. I'm not sure I love the 4-1 for this lightly raced horse making his first start since October, but when we last saw him, he did a lot of running in the point of entry stakes going 1.5 miles. Let's watch that race. Consider that very lightly raced 4-year-old in this spot, and Beacon Hill did some running. This pace was very solid. They went the half and 48-1 for a 1.5 mile race, and he fights him all the way down to the line, Mike. He has shown that he can win from off the pace in the past, and he has won fresh as well.
Yeah, I liked all those things about him too. I thought he ran a really underrated race here. I liked this performance from him. He's got a lot of upside. I threw him in there as far as the picks go, Dan. I wouldn't, use him at 4-1 for sure. I think that's way too short a price. I just felt like he was the horse who could drift in here. And if he does drift, I want to use him.
A lot of folks forget that the number 11, Get Her Number, won the Grade 1 American Pharaoh as a 2-year-old on dirt at Santa Anita. Now, he ran a few times at 3. It just didn't work out. His best effort, a 4th in the Arkansas Derby. These connections gave him plenty of time, and he came back off of a lengthy layoff last time out going 6.5. Now, this is the straightaway 6.5, not the downhill. Let's watch Get Her Number performance, and got close to a slow pace. The trip worked out, but it was nice to see him return sharp off the bench.
It was nice to see him, run a good race off the layoff here, and he did earn a new top figure for it as well. So, first start as a 4-year-old, he took a little bit of a step forward here, and he really had to, fight to earn this victory too. Dan, it's not like he just was able to breeze in. So, some of those things could be real positives for him. He's obviously got a lot to prove. He didn't get a great post in this race either. I didn't really want to bet him, but I guess, there are ways to look at him and feel like at a big price, you could use him somewhere.
The number looks legit. The 3rd place horse came back to earn a 92 buyer speed figure when second in a 2 other than allowance race. But as we've seen, he likes to be close to the pace, and the pace projector has him far back. So we'll have to pull off a new trick if he's going to upset this field. Street Ready completes the group, and I won't be too hard for Street Ready's most recent start. It was his first race off about a 10-month layoff. He was held up behind a slow pace, and he understandably tired. His last race as a 3-year-old, you got to go all the way back in the summer, was okay, but that was against weaker horses. Need you a bad post here.
Yeah, I didn't like those things about him either. I actually was a little bit of a fan of his going back to him as a 3-year-old, actually. I thought he ran some good races there, and I just felt like he had a lot of upside. I don't know that he ever really delivered on it, Dan, and all that upside's gone now. I think there are, plenty of horses in here who have a lot of room to improve that Street Ready doesn't have.
The other 3 horses in this race are on the also eligible list. If any of them get into the race, you're going to want to respect them. But before we get to our top selections, I do want to remind everybody to hit that subscribe button. When you visit us on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel, you'll have access to all the latest videos produced by us here at DRFTV. Top pick time for a very competitive race of the day for Wednesday, April the 20th. Mike, TD Dance, to me, just ticks all the boxes in terms of upside and right running style for this race, and you got Brad Cox in your corner.
Yeah, all those things are true. That's why I took him down. Again, I just sort of feel like his first two starts this year, I feel like I can make excuses for him there and say he actually ran a little bit better than it even looks. I want to wait and see what kind of price he is. The more I look at him, the more I feel like that 6-1 isn't going to happen. He's going to take more money than that, and I'd be pretty disappointed if that was the case. But at around that morning line, I could bet him in here.
I'm really interested to see what we get from Beacon Hill, the number 10 off of the layoff, but at 4-1 on the morning line, it just seems like it might be a tough task. I think I'll get a better price on the one like the King, who should be able to save valuable ground going into the first turn, and I think can be effective on firm going in a race with a fast pace. 6-3-7-10 for Mike, 1-10-7-4 for me. It's your DRF race of the day for Wednesday. Good luck.